Hello everybody, this is Austin from austins.nerdythings.com. Today I will be making my very first YouTube video, which will be a tutorial for how to enable SSH key-based authentication and disabling password-based authentication. This is a good step to take for any virtual private server, VPS, that you may have. I am doing it in the context of a blog that I have created recently, austins.nerdythings.com. So this is one of the first steps I took to secure the VPS. So up on the screen here is a brief set of steps that I will be using. First, we are going to create a new virtual machine from DigitalOcean.com. We are going to be using password-based authentication only. We will not be specifying any SSH keys. Then we're going to generate the SSH key in Windows 10. Windows 10 finally includes SSH as a default utility in base installs. After that, we will add this SSH key to the test virtual machine, and then we will verify the key-based login, because it is essential once you have the key-based login generated and enabled to verify it before you disable the password-based login, because if you do not have a way to get in with your keys, then when you disable your passwords, you will not have a way to get in at all. Which means that if this isn't working as expected, you can lock yourself out of your VPN. So once we have that verified, we will be disabling the password-based login. Alright, let's get started. First, we'll go to DigitalOcean.com, where I have an account. So we will sign in. Alright, you might be wondering why I am using Microsoft Edge. The answer is I found out about this great feature in Windows 10 called the Windows Sandbox. It is essentially a fully functioning Windows virtual machine that's throwaway. It's a sandbox. You can play in it. You can do whatever you want. When you're done with it, you just click close and it disappears. Anything you created during the session will be gone. The best part about it is it takes about 5 seconds to start. So you don't have to maintain a full-on Windows virtual machine. You just get to use these sandboxes and play around how you want. It's a pretty handy thing. So this is basically a default Windows install. So I'll be using all default Windows utilities, which will probably continue for a lot of these videos, trying to keep it as low level as possible without installing a bunch of fancy tools and things like that. So alright, we're in DigitalOcean. DigitalOcean is a virtual private server provider. They also provide a lot of other things, Kubernetes, volumes, which is like file space that you can attach to your VPS instances. They have databases and a bunch of other stuff. It's kind of like a AWS cloud or Azure, but not quite as many features. They're trying to compete in a slightly different area, trying to be more developer friendly, but not full-on cloud. So let's create a droplet. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Ubuntu is the default. It's what I'm most familiar with. I'm going to leave it. We're going to do a basic shared CPU. I'm just going to pick one that has 2 CPUs, or the slowest one that has 2 CPUs. This is only going to be up for maybe an hour. This tutorial overall will take about 10 minutes. So go for the 2 CPUs, so things are a little bit faster. We don't need any block storage. I don't care about where it's at. So we don't need to check anything else. Here's where we get to make the first decision: authentication. Are we going to use SSH keys, or are we going to do passwords? Since this is an SSH key tutorial, we will be using passwords only. So now we get to the first place where we need to do something. We're going to just generate a password here. Alright, let's see what this one has for us. Password length 16. Alright, whatever, this looks fine. Although this is a little bit suspicious. The last time I did this, Xbox was one of the first characters as well. If this just gave me the same password over and over and over again, I would be a little disappointed. Alright, we'll use this one. Alright, here's my root password. It meets the requirements. It's strong. And note this, you will not be sent an email containing the password. So maybe we should copy and paste that somewhere. Alright, so the virtual machine root password is going to be this. So we can close these guys out. We want one droplet. The host name doesn't matter for the tutorial. This is what it's called internally and things like that. So we are going to create the droplet. And this will take, I don't know, 10, 20 seconds. And once that's done, we will go ahead and log into it. All right, our droplet has been created. We have the IP address here, and it is up and running. So let's go ahead and log into it. One tip that I'll show you here, a lot of people don't know this, is you can hide this search. I have it hidden in pretty much everywhere, so you have more space for icons down here. But you can still use search really easy. You just click the start menu and you type in what you want to do. So I want to do command prompt. And so here we have the command prompt, and like I said, Windows now includes SSH. I meant to do SSH-V for version there, but that didn't work. But we do see that it spit out something anyways. So what we are going to do is we're going to do SSH, and SSH is username and then at the IP address or domain name you want to get to. So we'll do SSH root at this IP address here. And then you right click in here to paste. Okay, so now it says the authenticity cannot be established. Generally, you'll get this the first time you connect to any SSH host. There is a way to verify it. You need to go look at the host itself and take a look at the fingerprint. But here it's saying, here's the fingerprint. Do you want to continue connecting? Yes, we do. But I will say, if you ever see this after the first time you've connected to something, you need to take caution, because there is a chance that your SSH host has been compromised or changed somehow. All right, so now we go back to our password. We're going to copy this with Control-C. And then one of these things with Linux and SSH that you will see from time to time is when you go to type things into the password fields, nothing will appear. So like right now I'm typing, there's nothing there. It doesn't display anything by default. So I'm just going to right click, which will paste from my clipboard into this field, and hit enter. And that's going to log us in. So now we are logged into our virtual machine, which is, here's some information about it. This is a default Ubuntu welcome message. So it looks like it showed it to me twice here. That's a little weird. So it says welcome, here's some links for documentation, things like that, the system load, general information. Here's the IP address that we use to connect. It says one update can be installed. We don't need to really worry about that. So we got in no problem on our virtual machine. So I'm going to put this over here. Generally, I like to put things that are local on the left side and things that are remote on the right side. Alternatively, I will like to put things that are old on the left side or newer on the right. So let's open up another command prompt. So here's another hint that a lot of people don't know about. If you middle click pretty much anything down here, it will make another one. So I'm going to middle click, and middle clicking is clicking with your mouse wheel. And here's another command prompt just like that. All right, so we spun up the test virtual machine. We logged into it over here. Next, we need to generate the SSH key in Windows 10. So we'll do that over here. All right, so the command for this is SSH keygen, SSH-keygen, and we are going to be using the type RSA. Pretty basic, straightforward, known. We're going to specify the bit size of 2048. A lot of people now are recommending 4096. It's more secure in theory by a lot, but it doesn't really matter for this tutorial. So, all right, so we are going to take this command and then pop it over here to generate. To right click to copy it, and then we're going to hit enter. Okay, so it says generating public private key pair, which is done. It says enter file in which to save the key. In parentheses here it has the default, so we're just going to hit enter. This already exists because I think I did this once earlier. We're going to overwrite it. No passphrase again. All right, so it says your identification has been saved in. This is basically your user folder /.ssh/IDRSA. And then, so that's the private key, and the public key ends in .pub in the same place. And so here's the fingerprint, which is not the key itself. And I have no idea what this art is all about, but it pops up all the time. So let's take a look at those keys. So like I said, this is in the Windows Sandbox. Everything is all default here. So, typically if you click on Documents, it is C users, the user account / documents. But we want to go up one further than that. So we're going to go to C users. And in the Sandbox, I have no idea what WDAG utility account stands for or means, but that is apparently the user account that we're using. And so we can see here the .ssh folder that was created. In Linux, anything that starts with a dot is a hidden file typically. So this is a hidden folder, so you don't see it unless you're looking for it specifically or list out with hidden things enabled. Alright, so here are our keys. The RSA idrsa.pub is the public key. This is the one that you would share. So we're going to look at it in Notepad. So SSH keys are typically just really long single line things. It starts with SSH dash something. It's the type. And then the full public key. And then the user account at symbol. And then the computer it was created. And so like I said, this is all Sandbox stuff. This stuff's all made up. I didn't pick any of this. But this is our public key. And our private key looks like this. So, this is standard. I'm showing you this because by the time you see this video, all of this will have been deleted. All these keys and the VPS, so I don't really care about showing it to you, but private key is supposed to be private. If you are doing this for real, you do not share this with anybody. Also, you need to be sure to back this up, put it on a thumb drive or something and stick it in a drawer. Because if your computer crashes, you're going to have a hard time getting into your VPS. Alright, so we generated the SSH key in Windows 10. Now we need to add the SSH key to the test VM. So there's two ways to do this. The easiest way is with SSH copy ID. And so we're going to be copying the ID to root at whatever our IP address was. So I'm going to hit Control-C to copy that, and then we are going to copy it here. So if the password-based authentication is still enabled, this is by far the easiest way to copy that key. So I'm going to right-click to paste it in, hit Enter. Okay, so I thought this was a Windows command. Apparently it's not, but fear not, there is an easy way to do this without having SSH copy ID. So this is the manual way. This is exactly what this utility would be doing. So I'm just going to say, or paste the public key into authorized hosts. And really this will be into .ssh/authorized hosts. Alright, so for Linux, for those of you who don't know, ls is list. Snap is some package distribution thing. We don't really need to worry about it. But if you do ls-al, it lists the hidden things as well. So we can see here the .ssh. So this already exists. So we're going to change directory is the command cd to .ssh. So now we are in the .ssh folder, which you can see here before the pound symbol or hashtag if you are part of that generation. Alright, so now we're going to ls again. So we see that there is a file here called authorized keys. And to take a look at what is in that file, we can do cat. I don't know what cat stands for. A lot of Linux commands have really old roots, but regardless, this is the easy way to view files, the contents of files in Linux. So we're going to do authorized, AU, and then hit tab for autocomplete. So there is nothing in authorized keys, which makes sense because this is a brand new virtual machine. So my favorite text editor is Nano. We're going to Nano, AUTH, and then I hit tab to autocomplete, enter. Alright, so now we have a text editor. And what we are going to do is find our public key. I'm going to hit Control A to select it all, and then Control C to copy. Then I'm going to come over here to my Linux terminal, and I'm going to right click, and so that copies it all there. And then I'm going to hit, so here are the commands down here for how to use this text editor. Basically the only ones that I use are Control O to write and Control X to exit. So I'm going to hit Control O. It says file name to write, authorized keys. I'm going to hit enter because we want to write that. And I'm going to hit Control X to exit. Alright, so now if we hit up a couple of times to go up to the last commands, I'm going to cat authorized keys again. So here we go. So we've got this authorized key here. You know, it's long and nasty. I'm not going to spend too much time. Let's see. We've got 3 A's, B3N, 4 A's, B3N. There's this /EU/ here in the middle somewhere. So that looks good. So what we are going to do now is attempt to log in with the key. So I'm heading up over here on the Windows side, which apparently I closed out that terminal. Actually, it's this terminal is where that initial command was. We're going to SSH root at this IP address, and I just hit enter, and it got me in. So that means the key-based authentication is working. You know, it got me in without doing anything at all. You just have to, here, I'll show you it again to make it super clear. We'll get totally out of that terminal, middle click to open up a new terminal. So we're going to SSH, user root at this IP address. That's it, hit enter, and here we are. We're logged into the Linux box just like that. So that means the key-based authentication is working. Let's go back to our contents here. So we added the SSH key to the test VM by pasting the public key into authorized hosts and then saving it. And then we also verified the key-based login. So next up we will disable the password-based login. And to do that we need to edit the SSHD. It stands for the, let me back up, SSH stands for secure shell. SSHD is the secure shell daemon config file. So we're going to edit /etc, which is basically where all configuration files live. SSH, SSHD _ config. And we're going to edit by using nano. So I'll just say edit with nano. So I'm going to take this command, Control C, and these are both logged into the Linux box. It doesn't really matter. We'll do it over here because that's where we're doing the text editing and whatnot. Okay, so it doesn't like me copying that anymore. Let me try this one more time. Control C, right click. Okay, there it is this time. Alright, so this is the configuration file. It looks kind of scary. In Nano, it'll typically highlight things a certain color if it's commented out. So with this pound sign in front or hashtag, that means that that line is commented out, which means that they're totally ignored, essentially. So we're going to go down a bit here. Alright, here it is. Password authentications. And to disable this, what we're going to do is delete that out. Enter no instead of yes. I'm going to hit Control O to write. Enter. Control X to exit. And now we have disabled it in the configuration file. But what we need to do is restart SSHD for the changes to take effect. Alright, and to restart system services in Ubuntu, you do system. Actually, let me type it out over here. And this should actually be the next line down. Alright, so we edited the config file to disable the password-based login, and now we're going to restart SSH daemon for the changes to take effect. So we do systemctl, which stands for system control. We want to restart SSHD. Alright, so we'll take that, Control C, paste it, enter, restarted. So now it should be disabled. So over here in our left command, we will exit out of the SSH session. So now we're back to Windows. And so we will try, let me think about how to try to force a password-based login here. All right, we're just gonna try a different user. So there's how we see that the password has been disabled. So when SSH launches a session with the username and an IP address, it first looks to see if there is a key. If there is, it uses it. If there isn't, it will fall back to a password. And so what happened here is it tried to log in. There's no key, and then it said, okay, I don't have a key, let me try a password. And the server immediately said, nope, permission denied, because you don't have a password and we are not accepting password-based logins. And so if we want to look at the log for that, we can do cat/var/log/auth.log. And so invalid user from IP address that I will need to black out and connection reset. So it didn't like it. It said no thanks. Here is where it did accept it. Accepted public key for the root user from this IP address. So here we have it. That is how you enable SSH key-based authentication and disable password-based authentication. I hope you learned something new. This video, as recorded, is 24 minutes. That's a little bit longer than I had intended, but I like talking about these things, and you can go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I do plan on putting out a lot more content like this, not just the computer-based sessions, but also some videos of the various things that I'm covering on my blog, the nerdy things I do around the house and in my life, home automation, solar panels, batteries, using little radios to pick up signals transmitted by airplanes, temperature sensors, my electric meter, things like that. So I hope you learned something today. Had a good time doing so, and definitely go ahead and subscribe and come back for more. All right, thanks guys.